we're going to figure things out. You and me, together, today, we're going to figure it out. What are we going to figure out? Well, as a kid, you would have asked yourself, what do I want to be when I grow up? And now that you've grown up, you still don't have an answer to that question. And what typically happens to most of us is that after school or college, we just fall into a job. We kind of just go with the flow. And the job isn't really something that we enjoy, doesn't fulfill us, but it pays our bills. Our needs are met. We don't have to worry about our survival, which is a beautiful thing. There's no understating that. But if the job is making you miserable, if your job is making you miserable right now, the idea must have crossed your mind that there has to be something more than this. And maybe that idea has come in and out of existence and you didn't really entertain it because we're so comfortable. There's no urgency to change anything at all. And the other thing is, we can get trapped. We can actually create traps for ourselves. One example might be taking out a loan, taking out a mortgage, taking out finance for a car, and you've got these monthly repayments. So you're held ransom by your life choices and the fact that you depend on that paycheck at the end of every month or every week. So you can't really entertain the thoughts of making a real change or going after what you might be interested in or something you actually like. So, where do you go? What do you do? Well, let me offer you an alternative. And I'm scheming this from the great Alan Watts. And just play with this, The idea might be it might sound a bit far-fetched to you right now, but just humor me. Humor me and Alan Watts. How could you figure out a way to get paid to play? Think about that, right? And that idea might spawn some thoughts about the things you like, the things you enjoy doing. Imagine making a living off it. But immediately, your mind will try to protect you and say, look, you can't do that. What will your partner think? What will your parents think? You're not good enough. All these thoughts will come into your head if you played with the idea of turning something you like into an income stream, or turning what you like into what you do for a living. And the thoughts that will come into your head are just designed to protect you. The mind was a beautiful tool to use when we were worried about leopards and all sorts out in the fields, when there was threats everywhere. Perceiving danger to our survival, that's where all these self-limiting beliefs come from, because your mind's trying to protect you. If you embarrass yourself, you'll be ousted from the tribe. If you disappoint the people in your life, that might threaten your survival. At least that's what the mind thinks. So you have to be aware that the thoughts and ideas that come into your head, they're not there to serve you. They're there to protect you. And in the modern age where all our needs are met and we're looked after and everything's dandy, they just debilitate us, these thoughts. So that is why you need to ignore the rational thinking mind and instead look into your soul. That sounds a bit cheesy, doesn't it? Look into your soul. What's in your heart? Deep down, what do you enjoy? And a lot of people, especially the stuff that I put out, they'll say, you can't turn your passion into an income. It's not realistic, you know. And whatever the thinker thinks, the prover proves. If you go around believing that you can't turn your passion into a stable income, well, that will be your reality, because you're not looking at anything else other than the fact that you've created. And there are endless examples of people turning their passion into a stable income. One off the bat, a funny one, is Francis Bourgeois. I think that's a surname. You've probably seen him on TikTok, but he loves trains. He fucking loves trains. And when he sees an old school train coming along, he loses his shit. He can't contain himself. The excitement just overwhelms him. And he started recording himself, you know, documenting the trains, train spotting. Uploaded the videos to TikTok. He blew up. I don't know how many millions of followers he has. And now he's getting paid for his passion. You know, he didn't give a shit what people thought about when it came to him just expressing what he loves and what he enjoys, because that's all that matters to him. And, you know, I seen a video, he was on a train with Thierry Henry, the footballer, and he's getting paid partnerships left, right and centre. You know, that's a funny old example. Other examples closer to home, in Ireland, there's a comedian that, you know, I watched do Facebook skits, you know, 8 or 9 years ago on Facebook, Darren Conway. And he sold out a show. He's doing a podcast now, and the Stala podcast. But he sold out a show in the Liberty there this week. And it started from him just creating little skits in his kitchen. You know, he enjoys making people laugh. And now he's selling out shows and doing live podcasts, which is a great example of turning your passion, you know, entertaining, into a stable income. Another podcast I seen blown up in Ireland, the Talking Bollocks podcast. A couple of lads, Calvin and Terence. And they just, you know, they've got the gift of the gab. They just talk bollocks. They enjoy just having a good chat. And they obviously just took it upon themselves to start recording their chats. And they sold out a live show recently. So, you know, there's all these people who have just decided to, and I'm like certain that they were self-conscious at the start. They probably felt a bit embarrassed putting out the first podcast, putting out the first comedy sketch. But they stepped into the fear and they went through it and they put it out there and they built and they grew, and that momentum took them to selling out live shows. So this is what I mean. Don't be realistic. Just humor me here, right? Humor me. So, where do you start? Well, what do you enjoy? And a great question that I was asked by a massage therapist, turned out she was just more of a therapist than a masseuse. But as she was massaging me, this was 3 years ago, she asked me because she knew my back was crippled from sitting in a chair all day, and she was like, oh, what do you do if you're sitting down all day? And I told her what I did and stuff. And at the time, it was the work, it was more for financial gain than anything else. But anyway, I wasn't thrilled doing it. And she asked me what I liked or what I enjoyed doing as a child. And immediately I went in my head to doing comedy sketches in primary school when I was 11 or 12. And I enjoyed the fuck out of them. You're just orchestrating the show, who's going to say this, who's going to say that. It was the best fun. It was the best time ever. And that's where the clues lied for me. So, then I started making sketches. Then I started the Paddy Jobsman enterprise. And, I'm trying to play with this. I'm trying to have fun. And I know I can be very serious, but at the same time, I'm trying to play with it. Just trying to have the crack here and there and everywhere. But that's an example for you on the self-reflection that I did on myself. That led me to talking to you right now. Entertaining people. So there's clues everywhere for if you don't know what you really enjoy. Let's just start there. Don't start thinking, how could I monetize what I enjoy doing? Just think about, what do you enjoy? What did you enjoy as a child? What do you never shut up about? Ask your friends or family. Look at your YouTube algorithm. YouTube knows you better than yourself. It's fucking scary sometimes what shows up on the YouTube algorithm. Your Google history. Have a look at that if you dare. Your bank statements. What are you spending your money on? What activities have you done in the past that made you feel that you're being true to yourself? What do you do in your spare time? What podcasts do you listen to? Paddy's podcast, of course. What books do you read? What television shows do you watch? What podcasts, said that already. What TV shows do you binge? And you don't, have a think about it. Takes time, but have a think about it. Because if you can find out what you really enjoy, and we'll discuss angles now in a moment of how you can turn what you enjoy into a living. But aside from physical limitations, let's say I wanted to be in the NBA. I'm not, physically, it would be very difficult for me. Or let's say I wanted to run in a 100-meter sprint in the Olympics in 2 years. It's like, all right, that might not be possible. But aside from physical limitations, most things are on the table. And you can become exceptional at whatever you want. And you can get so good that you'll get paid for it. And the thing is, the better you become in one domain, the more leverage you have around every aspect of your life. People will pay you more money. And when you get good at something, you enjoy your work. read a few studies recently where competence, how good are you at the job, that is directly related to how satisfied you are in your job. Job satisfaction is directly related to how good you are at it. And the better you get at whatever it is you want to get better at, especially if it's something you really enjoyed and you're interested in, well, then the more opportunities that will come your way. The more control you will have over the things that you get to do every day. Let's say you enjoy writing short stories. That's something that's a realistic goal. You could become a best-selling short story writer. If you like producing music, you could start documenting your process on YouTube, on TikTok. If you love painting, you could get your work out there. You can start small. You could do time-lapse videos of you creating art. If you love sports, you could create a YouTube channel and record your takes or your thoughts after a match or whatever it is, and just get involved, get entrenched in what it is that you really love and find ways that you can express yourself. And eventually, when you get so good at whatever it is that you enjoy, or incorporating what you enjoy, and finding a way to get good at something, you could coach or teach what it is that you learn. So let's say you love yoga or you love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You could teach that. You could coach people. You could make a living off that. If you love baking and you just do it for fun, that's an obvious one. You could start selling your cakes. So there's endless ways that you could monetize what it is you enjoy doing. And once you identify the thing that you're interested in, or you enjoy the topic or the subject or the domain, whatever it is, and you're like, I want to get involved in that industry, I think that's where I'd find some purpose. Well, aim at it. You need to aim at it. You can't just pick it out of the sky and just have it sitting there as an idea. You need to aim at something. You need to set the goal. And how I recommend you get started, because the hardest part is getting started. And one of the reasons we never do get started is because we set the bar so high. We think, let's say I wanted to create animations, comedy animations. And I tell myself, if only I had a full day, then I could really get into it. Then I could really learn the skills involved, but I just don't have the time. I need 3 or 4 hours or whatever. And we create these imaginary barriers. But let me offer you this. Break the goal down into actionable steps that you would actually take. And once you can break it down, then you can develop a habit, either weekly or daily, weekly at the start, preferably, just to get the ball rolling. And that's how you get started. And where I propose you get started is, well, first, consider energy and willpower. That plays a massive factor in starting anything. If you work an 8-hour day and come home from work, you get your dinner. If you have kids, you play with the kids. put the kids to bed or whatever it is, and you're bollocksed. You've no energy to do anything. So the thought of watching a half an hour presentation on how to sell, or, you know, signing up to a masterclass to learn how to improve your public speaking, whatever it is, you're more likely to just not take the action. You're more likely to just relax. So your energy plays a massive role in starting something new. So what I recommend doing is pick a day, a day that you have off. Could be a Saturday. Make yourself a cup of coffee and set the timer for 20 minutes. And just say, for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to give my undivided attention to whatever it is that you want to get better at, whatever it is that you're interested in, and you have an inkling that you could make a career out of it. You know, let's say you want to be a documentary filmmaker. This Saturday, you set a goal to watch a 20-minute presentation on how to edit videos. And the reason I'm saying 20 minutes is because, again, set the bar low. Make the schedule friendly. And a great example that I use is, if you were to put in 20 minutes every day into something, into anything, over a year, that's 121 hours. So imagine you put 121 hours of practice into anything, how far you would have come. You know, let's say you wanted to be a motivational speaker. Imagine you put 121 hours into learning how to be an effective public speaker. You'd be so much better at it. And that's only with 20 minutes a day. And you can do 20 minutes a day. You can build up to 20 minutes a day. But start off one weekend, 20 minutes. Next weekend, we'll go again. I might do 30 minutes. We'll see what happens. But if you can start to develop a daily habit and try and implement the habit when you have the most energy. So if that's a half an hour before work, that's always the best time, because you're far more likely to take action. And the thing is, when you're aiming at something, I've experienced this, you begin to filter out everything that isn't the goal. So let's say what I'm trying to do, helping people with their careers. I'll walk down the street and I'll just see anything, something, and it will give me an idea for a career advice video or a TikTok video or whatever it is. Because I walk around with this filter, and anything that's not related to the goal is blocked out. So you'll really surprise yourself when you start to hone in, when you set the goal for what you want. And the only thing getting in the way of starting and what you really want is, it's just discipline and consistency. Doing the boring thing each day. You know, there's no magic bullet. That's all it comes down to. Just pushing yourself through the sludge. And even if it is something you love, you know, let's say you love the UFC or boxing, and you're trying to build up a channel, you know, a news report channel on the UFC, and you're giving your takes after each fight. even if it's something you love, you can't expect every moment to be Pleasureville. You know, we expect that, or we strive for happiness in every moment. We think that's what fulfillment is. That's when we'll have it all figured out, when everything aligns and we're always happy. It's like you can't have joy without sadness. It's if you never had sadness, you wouldn't know what joy is. It's yin and yang. You can't have one without the other. So you can't expect to enjoy every moment of what you're doing, even if it is something you love. But moving towards something that has real meaning to you, that gives you purpose, something that your heart and soul aligns with, I mean, is there anything better to go after than that? And, you know, in the structure of society that we live in, the way it's set up, we have to contribute in some way. So you may as well go after something that's truly meaningful to you. When you're on that path, when you're moving towards something that matters, that voice in your head, I definitely don't have it all figured out, but when I'm taking the action I know I should be taking, when I'm moving towards something that's true, that I know deep down I want, that little voice in your head, the one that tells you you're not good enough, the one that tells you all the bad things about you, that voice becomes very quiet. And you start to become very confident in yourself. You start to become very sure of yourself. I describe it like, you know, when you've finished a big project, or you've done a workout, say, and after the workout, you have that sense of relief, and you're just like, that was tough. I got through it. I feel fucking good that I did it. It's like when you're on your purpose and you're taking action towards it and everything's aligned, when the day is done, you get that sense of accomplishment, that feeling of, yeah, I fucking did it. I gave it a good shot. And then you go again tomorrow. So, play with some of those ideas there. And like I said, this is a process. If you don't have it all figured out, don't worry. Even a bad plan, even, you know, the scattiest, a plan that is bare, is a bare plan is better than no plan. And even, you know, like I said, 20 minutes a day might seem like very little, but it's 100% better than 0%. It's infinite times better than taking no action. So set the bar low. Give yourself a pat on the back when you get the work done, and you'll get momentum and you'll keep moving forward. So there we have it. Episode 1. Thanks for listening. Best of luck, and I'll see you next week.